He was going about 80 miles an hour when he hit me right in the fuel tanks. It ruptured them and sloshed fuel up into the bunk area, and the bunk's on fire. Pretty much the whole driver's side of the truck was on fire, so the ambulance showed up, and I did something that I never want to have to do again. I called my wife with the ambulance driver's cell phone.
Welcome to Six Figure Trucker, the podcast where we share advice on how to be successful in trucking and have fun while doing so. We'll share stories, news, and advice on how to earn six figures in trucking, and we'll speak to guys and gals that are already doing so. Let's get to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. You know, this is a format where we elevate and celebrate the drivers that move our trucks, move so much in the economy. Of course, we don't move freight, but we move the trucks that move the freight. Well, tonight we've got something a little different for you. We have an in-house guest. He's here in person, Aaron Smith, who is our driver development manager. Aaron, how are you this evening?
Oh, doing good.
Now, Aaron's been with us for some time, and driver development manager, explain what that means and what you do within the company.
We do a lot with the hours of service, training drivers, trying to answer their questions. If they've got questions about logging and different things like that. I'm also the guy that audits the logs.
Right. So you come into contact over the phone with a lot of drivers. What's that like, that interaction? I mean, this is one of those things. It's kind of like paying taxes, going to the dentist. you have to do it.
Right. Talking to the drivers, I've spent over 20 years on the road, and I enjoy talking to other drivers here and there, what's going on with them, explaining to them the different changes that have come along in the FMCSAs and different things like that. And if I can help them out, try to smooth things over.
So talk about the FMCSA and the changes that have come. It's really changed a lot in the, last 10 years.
Yeah, last 10 years has been huge. We changed from 10 hours of driving to 11 with an 11-hour break. And then now we had another change where they added in a 30-minute break before your 8th hour. And at first, when I was still over the road when they changed that, and I didn't care for it so much because it broke up my day.
Right.
But once I got understanding it, the longer a driver stays on the road, the more tunnel vision comes in, and you're not seeing anything on the sides. And what that 30-minute break is to do is to just get you out and away so that you can pick up more awareness and be more awake and be able to handle what comes on.
Be on your toes.
Right.
Sharp on your toes.
Exactly.
Now, you had mentioned over the road for yourself, and you've been on the road for 20 years. I want to come back to some safety issues that you brought up there, some really good topics. But I guess being a guy that's been on the road, having that background, how much perspective does that give you to the driver?
It makes it kind of huge. Back when I first started driving, we were paper logs. And one of the first things my dad taught me was how to run 3 logs. He said, that's the only way you can make money. And he was right at the time.
Right.
But things have progressed, and we've switched, and a lot of companies, well, just about all the companies have went to the electronic logs now. And there's no way you can really
Cook the books
on that one, exactly.
Talk about how common it was when you started. You're talking about your dad had taught you. I mean, people hear the stories, but it's a lot harder to do it now, but back in the 70s and 80s, it was like commonplace.
Yeah, it's one of the first things he told me was it was a cheaper fine to not have a logbook than to get caught with one that's been cooked. Mm-hmm. And he said, you've got to make sure you're giving them the right logbook, and you've got to make sure of this and that. When I first started, we were making 10 cents a mile, and you had to be getting with it, or you wouldn't make any money to bring home.
Gotcha. Which I'm sure that's led hand in hand to cooking the books. But you and I were talking, I guess it was Wednesday, 20 years on the road, is that right?
Right.
And you've seen a lot, and there was one thing in particular that I would imagine was a life-changing event.
It was, yeah, it was pretty huge. It also solidified safety and getting your rest in my life, my lifestyle and everything. Used to be kind of run free and easy, but it was really interesting what happened. I mean, scary and interesting, bad deal all around. I was waiting on a load coming out of Kimberly-Clark in Tulsa. And I'd been begging my dispatcher, I want to go to Dallas, because I hadn't been to Dallas in a lot of years. So I was headed down to the Dallas railhead with a trailer full of toilet paper. And it was about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Beautiful night. Moon was out. I mean, it was just like almost driving in daylight. Right there on the Highway 71 coming out of Tulsa, it's a divided 4-lane.
Right.
And it was beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful night. And I just passed a truck that had come out of Tulsa International with about a half a load of jet fuel on. And he hollered at me on the radio. He says, I'm having trouble getting going. Just go ahead and go out around me. So I did. Mm-hmm. I just settled in, just turned my cruise control on, and was setting up for a good night's drive. And all of a sudden, off the side of my left side, I got a flash of headlights about my door, is where I first seen the headlights. I'll tell you, there's not a tree to be seen near this area, and it's just wide open. If there had been headlights, I'd have seen them coming.
Right.
I seen the ones coming northbound on the other side of the divided 4-lane, and I never seen these. It was coming from a crossroad. And from what I understand, the young man was committing suicide. And he decided to pick one of us. Well, I happened to be at the crossroads at that time. And talking to the officer and reading the accident reports and the diagrams and everything, and he was going about 80 miles an hour when he hit me right in the fuel tanks.
What happened after he hit the fuel tanks?
It ruptured them and sloshed fuel up into the bunk area. This is back, the old Freightliners had that wide open spot underneath the bunk area. Mm-hmm. Somehow a spark set the diesel off, and the bunk was on fire. And when he hit me, it knocked my drive tires sideways and pointed me toward the oncoming lanes. And so I decided I knew I didn't want to get over there, so I fought with it. I was able to keep it upright and on my side for about 500 feet. And then the trailer finally slewed off enough to where it got into the dirt and gravel and stuff on the side and laid over, and laid the whole unit over.
Now, you were saying that the police report said he was going about 80, is that right?
Yeah.
Being in a big truck, what kind of impact was it?
It was a pretty good-sized impact. I talked to the officer, and I talked to the state trooper that investigated, and the first thing they asked me was you wearing your seatbelt? And I'd always swore, I never wear a seatbelt. That night I was. And I had the arms down on my driver chair. The trooper said that's the only thing that kept you from getting slung to the other side of the cab.
And you've got the bunk on fire.
Right, the bunk's on fire. Pretty much the whole driver's side of the truck was on fire, so there wasn't no climbing out the driver's side window or anything like that. And plus, I was just kind of hanging there in my seatbelt, and I got it unlocked and dropped down to the other side of the cab and couldn't find my hammer. I always kept it right beside my chair, It's just a thing to do. Yeah, just regular hammer. Couldn't find it. So what I did find was my thermos. And it was an Aladdin thermos, one of the great big heavy green ones, the monsters, the ones that hold about a pot and a half.
Right.
So I used it and busted out the windshield there on the low side and kicked out the rest of it and kind of tootled off to about 50, 60 yards away from the truck and sat down.
Did you have any burns on you?
No. Grace of God, I was lucky to get out of that.
How long did it take to get out? I mean, with the thermos and kicking out, I'm assuming it was the passenger side windshield?
Just a couple minutes.
Right. Adrenaline was pumping,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
adrenaline was pumping big time. I could feel the heat on the back of my head, and I just knew I didn't want to get burned.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of smoke inhalation and the nasty chemicals that's in the smoke and everything. When I tootled off, I was a smoker at the time.
Right.
And the driver that was behind me that I'd passed, he got pulled over and come running up to see if he could help. Well, if I'd have been waiting on him to help me, it wouldn't have helped. But he asked me if I needed anything. I said, yeah, I need a cigarette.
Yeah.
So he handed me a cigarette, and I had my lighter in my pocket. My hand was shaking too bad to light the cigarette, so he leaned down and lit it for me. And it took about one puff, and all those chemicals and everything else that I inhaled in the smoke, that was about all I wanted from that.
Right.
The ambulance showed up, and I did something that I never want to have to do again. I called my wife with the ambulance driver's cell phone, or the guy in the back, and it was about 3:30 when he called her. He dialed the number and everything for me, and I talked to her, and the only words that I could really get out was, I wrecked my truck, and I'm okay. I'm going to the hospital. So she got back on with him, and he told her what hospital and everything, and they were asking me, what hospital you want to go to and what this and what. I didn't live in Tulsa. I had no clue. I said, just take me to one.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up one of the top hospitals in Tulsa. I ended up with 75 stitches and 6 staples from cuts from the glass and everything, getting out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But obviously you had no other choice.
No, there wasn't another choice.
Now, this is in the middle of the night. What year are we talking about here?
2003, I think.
Okay.
I don't remember the year, I don't remember the night, the day, but I can remember what happened.
The details like it was yesterday.
I remember being in the emergency room, and one of the nurses come in, and she says, "Oh, you're the reason I'm late for work." And I got to think, well, what the hell? She says, "Yeah, they blocked the road off because there was a fatality in both directions."
Right.
I spent a little time there in the emergency room, then they moved me up to a room, and I no sooner got settled in the room, and here comes the lady from the DOT wanting their sample to make sure, because I was involved in the fatality accident. It was interesting. They had me on oxygen. They said I had stage 4 smoke inhalation. The lady explained it to me that stage 5 usually means you're not going to make it through.
So there was a lot of stuff going on inside that cab.
A lot of stuff going on. I still have issues sometimes, especially when I get out on the wide 4-lane. It took me about a month and a half before I got back in the truck, and it took some soul searching before I climbed up in there.
Mm-hmm.
To start with, I didn't want anything to do with the big truck no more.
Right.
It was kind of weird, I've talked to my father about it and everything, and he drove for 42 years.
Oh, wow.
And he was a 3 million mile safe driver. And, he said, I don't know. He'd never been in an accident. He'd never dealt with it. You just go.
Mm-hmm.
But it also hammers in everything you're taught on the truck. You don't want to, I know it sounds kind of corny, but it's one life for however many.
Right.
Coming from the other direction, I just knew I didn't want to get over there because it would have been a big mess.
Right.
It just, that run through my mind, and it just, different things happened so quick that it was kind of hard to separate them out.
I got you. This happened in the early 2000s. You got back on the road after about 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks, month and a half, yeah.
You said you still had some issues with it. At the time of the crash, it was a young man who did this act.
Yeah, he was 18.
Did you, I mean, is that something that's still in your mind? What happened then? I mean, obviously, you were clearly just there. And
Yeah,
he was looking for it.
I talked to his parents. When they found the note that day and had been looking for him, the whole point was he was having a rough spot in his life and didn't get the job he'd planned on, and that was the deciding factor, I guess. They said, just don't blame. And I said, I don't have any blame. Right. I don't lay blame.
Right.
It was just a happenstance.
Right.
And I lucked out and came out on the good side.
When you got back on the road, how hard was it to transition after those first 6 weeks? Did time help you to keep moving?
Yeah. I had a really good dispatcher. I was with Schneider at the time. And the guy that run my account, he was real easy bringing me back. He'd give me a couple, 3 short runs here, a couple, 3 short runs there. And then he'd throw in a long one and just easing me back in. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue I had was, and I still to this day have it, I get on a divided 4-lane, and especially at night, and if I'm driving, I drive past those side roads, and my wife said my hand turns white on the wheel. She can see how hard I'm gripping the wheel. And it's just reaction, I guess.
That's something that stays with a person.
Yeah.
And you drove for a total of 20 years, is that right?
A little bit more, yeah.
A little more than 20 years. That experience, how does it help you now in your discussions with drivers?
It helps with making sure they got their rest. I was coming off a 38-hour break because I had to wait on that load going to Dallas. And my dispatcher said, "Are you sure you want to wait that long? I mean, we could get another one." And I said, "Nope, I want to go to Dallas." So he got me all set up, and it was about a 38-hour wait. Mm-hmm. No problem. I was, parked in a decent spot, had a restaurant close that I could walk to, gas stations, the whole 9 yards. But I had plenty of rest. And sometimes I think if I was coming just off a 10-hour break or took a short break or something like that, I don't think I would have had the reaction and reaction time that I needed then with that short break.
Right, to get out of the cab.
Right. That's one of the reasons I try to stress to the drivers I talk to, you've got to have the rest. I mean, I know you think you can, drive for 10, 12, 14 hours. You can do that. But I start seeing why this kind of nailed it home. But with the drivers that tired, you can see, I can hear it in their voice when I talk to them on the phone. Mm-hmm. When they come in here, if they get a chance to come through, I try to, talk to them. You can hear it in their voice. Just looking at them, you can see how tired they are. It's one of the things I try to talk to all the girls in here. I try to tell them, I said, look, if you can hear it in his voice, tell him to pull over, because you guys talk to him all the time. Tell him to get some rest.
It's almost like, to me it sounds like a dispatcher here internally, but also like a 911 operator.
Yep. It's you got to listen, and you're not listening just for what they're saying, but you listen to the tone of their voice. You listen to how they're talking, if they're stuttering, if they're slipping words or anything dragging or anything like that. It's just some of the things you've got to listen for, to be aware and take care of the guy.
You're listening to Aaron Smith here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Aaron has shared a very harrowing story he had back in the early 2000s, I guess about 20 years ago. And we're very lucky to have Aaron here. He's a key part of our team. Now, Aaron, what are some of the key issues you see from where you sit? I know I sit one row behind you. I see your head down every day, and you're on the phone. What are some of the key components of what you do as far as moving not only our company forward, but keeping our drivers safe?
One of the main things that I do is I do a lot of audits on logs. And with the logging system that we're using, it's real easy to fudge. But with the years of experience that I've got, I know where those fudges are coming from and how to do it.
And where do they most often come from?
Setting up where you say you stopped in this town and then you drive some, and then you stopped in the next one. If you do that wrong, if you pick wrong, then you're setting yourself up for a speeding ticket. I had a gentleman that I was going over his logs with him, and he was, according to his logs, he was going 156 miles an hour. He says, well, that truck didn't go that fast. And I said, no, but your logs say you did.
Right. It's one or the other.
Right. And the DOT officers, they can go back 14 days. And when they go back, even if on the 14th day they can see that difference and they can sit down and figure, it's nothing but grabbing a calculator. Mm-hmm. And he can write you a ticket for 156 miles an hour, and that ticket right there will take your license.
Oh,
because for a long time. And it doesn't matter what state you're in. He can write that ticket because he's Department of Transportation, not a state employee.
Right. And from your position and your experience and your background, that's just one example of what you were talking about there. You probably hear a lot of BS, but I would imagine that your BS detector is pretty sharp. Right,
yeah. It's easy to pick out. Granted, I've drank the Kool-Aid, is what we used to call it, with the companies. I always saw it from the driver's perspective, and I always, I knew how to sling the BS. But now that I'm seeing things from the company's perspective, it's changed a lot but it's also letting me recognize if they're trying to BS their way through stuff.
Right. How compliant do you see drivers these days with all the technology going electronic, much more difficult to cook the books on the logs? How compliant are they? Is it something that they're acceptive of?
The ones that are in the truck itself, those are almost impossible to cook. The logs that we use, they could cook them, but they've also got to stop and figure, okay, what if I did this and I did that? And it makes them think it's harder to cook the log than it is to just do it.
Right.
Logging things as you do them.
Well, it's kind of like the example you were laying out, the 156 miles. You can't do it in X amount of time unless you're going, speed of a sports car.
Right. And that's one of the things I try to get across to the drivers. I said, guys, this would be so much easier if you just log things as you do them instead of waiting till the end of the day or the end of the week to go back and try to figure out, well, I was here at this time and maybe at this time, and you don't got to remember nothing. It's all right there.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the technology we have, and it continues to increase and advance. What's your viewpoint, or how do you look at the future? How do you see it as far as where we're going?
I see changes coming, and some of the changes that are going through right now with I guess it's the TMTA and the GATM, whatever their alphabet is, it's their trucking industry. And it's changing for the better. Granted, you still have the outlaw truckers that are doing this and doing that and everything like that, but we're starting to get across to them that you can make money doing it the right way. I like to use, there's two gentlemen that I've had to do face-to-face meetings with And I tell them that I will be checking your logs periodically. And 2 of them right now are in the top 10 of our driver list. One of them is right now in the top.
A successful driver making a lot of money, doing the miles, but doing it the right way.
And it's one of the gentlemen you've had on your show.
Who is it? Let's live.
Robert Regan.
Oh, right. Yeah, Robert does do a lot of. He moves a lot.
He is. I'm so proud of him. I really am. That these guys are doing things square. It really proven my point of you can make money by doing it the right way.
It's not only doing it the right way, but to do it the right way, you have to come up with a good plan.
Right.
From your standpoint of examining and analyzing logs and doing it the right way, how much would you want to reiterate to drivers about the importance of a good plan?
I never moved my truck without knowing where I was going first. My wife and I will sit down with one of my Rand McNally's, and we'll plan out, if we go on vacation, we plan out our road trip, where we're going to stop for a hotel, where we're going to do this. It sounds kind of corny, but I tell you what, I'd rather do it that way because it gives you something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. You know, I plan on stopping here. Well, I look forward to getting there. In the truck, I never moved the truck until I had my plan set out. I'm old school enough to where I never used GPS.
Well, when you said Rand McNally, that was my first clue.
The only time I would bring up even maps on my phone when I got the phone would be right before I get to my customer, and I'd bring up a bird's eye view of the customer, just so I can see what side of the building I go in on, where the gates are at,
where the dock
and
is.
Where the dock is, exactly. Other than that, I use street level. I use the Rand McNally's. It gives me a better feeling because I'm doing it with the paper, and it gives me that feeling that I'm writing it down, and I'm knowing what I'm doing, and it helps me remember. But I don't got no GPS telling me, oh, turn here, or in 50 yards, turn here. And it's like, okay, but
you know where it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're listening to Aaron Smith here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Aaron is our driver development manager. He pulls a lot of important strings that happen to keep us successful, keep the truck drivers on the road. Aaron, I wanted to ask you this question as you sit here now. What pulled you in to Norton Transport itself as an employee? You were talking about your background, your past, but how did you what was specific as far as getting you in the door?
That was kind of a fluke. I'd been laid off by U.S. Express when they did their cutback last August. They laid off 120 people, and I just happened to be one of them.
Were you a driver at that point?
No, I was a driver development specialist, is what they called them. What I did was onboarding of the new hires.
I got you.
Testing their driving skills, their backing skills, different things like that. Before that, I worked for XPO Logistics at a terminal in Iowa. So I'm a Yankee down here, I guess you say. But I taught CDL school.
Right.
XPO had their own school. And we were teaching them this is the clutch, this is the gear shift, all the way up to getting their CDL and becoming a company driver.
Baby steps all the way to the completion.
Right. And it was just a 12-week school. I know a lot of the schools now they're pushing them through really fast. The drivers don't get the training that they really need. But I worked safety a lot with XPO Logistics. I worked safety with U.S. Express a lot. And then when they laid me off, I sat and worried. I ain't kidding you. I'm biting my fingernails and whole 9 yards trying to figure out what am I going to do. And I kind of got on LinkedIn and threw my resume out there. And Norton was one of the companies that answered and wanted to set me up for an interview. So I got to investigating, and I got to look, and I don't know if I want to do this or not. I know I want to work in-house, but I don't know if my experience is going to help.
Right.
When I came in, I wasn't going to come to the interview. My wife talked me into it. She said, use it as an experience interview.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they don't, you know, if you don't like what they're saying, you don't have to take the job.
Sure.
When I came in for the interview, I was nervous, as like everybody. But I talked to Justin.
Right.
Justin set me up. We sat here and we more or less just had a conversation like you and I are doing right now. And it was more relaxed, and he's told me what his vision would be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like the sound of it. He said, you know, there's things we've got to do. We've got to bring our CSA scores down. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. And he says, I think you can fit right in real easy.
I know Renee speaks very highly of you. Renee, of course, being our safety director. She speaks very highly of you. And you probably internally here within our company, a lot of people may not know everything that goes on in the background, but the wheel has to churn. And you're one of the key people that spins the wheel. How rewarding is it for you to do that? I mean, I'm not saying you're in the background, but,
Right.
You know, we see a lot of people that do different things that are more visible, but what you guys do is critically important.
It's very rewarding. I was just working the job at U.S. Express. There was mornings my wife had to force me out of bed. Here, I'm fired up. I'm ready to come in. My weeks go really fast. My days go really fast. And I was just commenting to my wife the other day, and I said, I'm almost been here a year now.
It's flown by.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I mentioned it to Renee the other day. And it was, she just kind of grinned at me and she goes, we've got a lot done, didn't we? And I said, yeah, we got a lot more to do, but we did. We have got a lot of changes done. And it's all for the better.
You're listening to Aaron Smith here, our driver development manager for Norton Transport here on the Six Figure Trucker. What's your goal for next? What do you want to see, what we can give drivers, what Norton Transport can give drivers? What do you want to see next?
I would like to see more emphasis placed on the logs. Not just, you know, we got to get the drivers, and we're doing it one by one. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see the drivers start taking more interest in their logs. I try to make it, you know, logging is a very boring thing, but I try to make it sound a little bit better when I talk to the drivers.
I mean, it's a necessary thing. It may be boring to actually do and to talk about, but it's obviously necessary and required. How do you sell it?
I kind of start off by, I know where you're coming from. You know, I've got this many years experience on the road. We started off paper. From paper, I went to electronics, and, you know, electronics gotten better and better each year. I tried to sell it to them. It's like, this is the easiest thing I've ever seen. Our logs, all you got to do is just touch drive when the wheels start turning. You stop, you either touch off duty or on duty. There's nothing to it. I mean, it's just the easiest thing I've ever seen.
Do you see people using that technology more now that it's so easy, it's in your hand?
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I stress to the drivers. I mean, you got it right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you shouldn't ever have fudges on your logs because you don't have to remember anything. If it's right there in your hand, all you got to do is blip, and that's it. I'd like to see more of the new people coming to the company. Right now, we have a hours of service test. It has 5 questions. We send it out to the prospective employees. Mm-hmm. And if they miss 3 questions, they're asked to come to an hours of service class that I do every Thursday. And that's just more or less you know, this is what we're looking for. This is the type of logs we're doing. This is the type of, you know, things you'll be needing to do for the company. And then I email them a little scenario and have them log it. And if they have questions, they're welcome to call me, send me an email, whatever they need to do. It kind of helps us, I don't want to say weed out, but it helps us trying to pick the better employee that's
Right.
coming in.
Be more selective.
Right. And Another thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see our dispatchers start coming in, especially the dispatcher leads, logistics coordinators. Yeah, I remember. I've had 2 or 3 of them have asked me, what does this mean? What does this mean? And I've had them say, you know the drivers hate you, right? And I said, well, I kind of look at it like this. If they hate me, that means I'm doing my job.
There you go. Those 5 questions, is that something you can share with us, or would that be giving away the answers for the drivers that are listening?
They're basic questions. Like, what time zone do you need to log in? We don't use the sleeper berth in this company. And that's one of the questions. Can you use a sleeper berth? No. They're basic, simple, very, very new edge.
Right. Get your foot in the door.
Right,
kind of
yeah.
things, yeah. I was going to ask you, as far as log compliance in the electronic advanced digital world we live in now, is it more difficult to get old school drivers to come on board doing that?
The old school drivers, they're the ones that's been paper all their lives, and they're making the transition. I like to think I'm kind of an example of an old school driver that has made the transition. And I kind of use myself as an experience, and tell them my experience with it and help them ease them into it instead of just picking them up and throwing them in the cold water. We're kind of going in foot by foot, toe by toe, and kind of explaining things and easing them into it, and it helps a lot.
How do you carry on the relationship you have with each driver that we have? You were talking about some of the dispatchers saying, you're the guy that they hate,
yeah,
but you still got to talk to them.
Right.
How do you do that as far as carrying on that relationship where they will listen and be receptive and give you the information that you need?
We have one lady that I've dealt with quite a bit. She was my first face-to-face meeting. And what it was is I brought her in and had her come through the terminal here. It's not a terminal, but it's the office. I had her come through the office. And we sat and we just chatted. Mm-hmm. And I explained a few things, and she told me where she was coming up short on what to do. And I explained a few more things, and it helped a lot. Now she don't not answer the phone when I call. If I do call a driver, I explain who I am to start with. I'm the guy that it comes down to once they talk to Peyton, once they talk to John, mm-hmm. I'm the next guy in line, and that's where it stops. So if you have to talk to me, that means it's gotten too far out of hand.
You're in the principal's office.
I'm the guy that nobody wants to talk to.
Right. Is that hard to do as far as a profession for you personally?
I'm very lucky. I go home and decompress. I tell my wife how my day was, and we talk about it, and she goes, well, so? And she puts it all in perspective. And there's times I've been home or gotten home and I felt defeated. It's like everything I'm trying to do, it's not getting done. Mm-hmm. And I go home and bounce it off of her, and she explains a few things to me, what I should be thinking about. And so she's had to experience my accident from her side.
Yeah. It's always good to get that different perspective.
You ain't kidding. I just had a medical event back in April, and I didn't think it was that bad of a thing. But getting her perspective after she talked to the surgeons and everything like that, I had to pull it out of her with a pair of pliers. She didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. She's like me. She buries it.
Right.
That's where I'm kind of old school. I was taught you have a problem, you bury it, work at it later.
Right. You're listening to Aaron Smith here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Aaron is our driver development manager, has been through, if you caught us at the beginning there of this episode, had a very harrowing accident, and Aaron has shared how that has shaped him, formed him, and he's moved on, stayed in the industry, been a driver, been in a lot of compliance situations as far as management, safety, etc. Aaron, as we come down the home stretch here, what would be your counsel, your advice to drivers as far as when they approach this job? I mean, it's easy. I mean, there's a lot of pressure and demands on drivers to get the trucks there, but you're still driving a
Right.
80,000-pound piece of equipment there in some cases. What's your advice to those drivers when they put the key in the ignition, get behind the wheel, do their pre-trip inspection, and they're about to take off? What's your advice?
Concentration. One of the biggest things that can involve a driver is distraction. And if you are able to narrow down the distractions and kind of keep a focus on what you're doing and making sure you're doing everything safe, you'll have a long career.
You've had over 20 years on the road. You talk about narrowing down distractions. What are some of the techniques you used then and employ upon drivers now?
I try to bring it down, bring it home. If I do this, what's going to happen there? If I do that, what's going to happen to this one? I try to think ahead. Not very successful at it. My wife says I'm not very successful at thinking ahead, but when it comes to driving, I try to do everything as safe as I was taught. Like I said, my father, been in the industry, felt like forever. He tried to teach me as we went along different things. If you do this, this is going to happen. Well, you've got to experience it as a young man. You're going to, okay, I listened to you, but I'm going to do it my way. And I've learned the older gentlemen and the older folks, older drivers, that was one of the things I used to do at a truck stop when I stopped for the evening. I'd sit usually by myself and listen to the old guys. Just listen to their stories. Listen to what happened when this happened, and
There's a lot to learn there.
You ain't kidding. Use experience when you can. These older drivers, they've seen a lot and done a lot. And if I can learn something new that I never knew, that more power to me. It makes me a better driver. One thing I will share with you that I learned in the middle of a snowstorm south of St. Louis. I was sitting in there complaining because I had to stop every whip stitch and bang my wiper blades off because they were freezing up. And this old driver, he kind of looked at me and he says, "Pine Sol." I said, "What?" He said, "Get you one of them little jars of Pine Sol and put it in your wiper fluid." He said, "Snow and ice won't stick to your wiper blades. Plus it gives your windshield a better clean and it smells good."
And it worked.
And it worked. It worked like a charm.
That kind of goes back to your point of listening to those who have been there, done that. That's not something you could find in a textbook, in a school, in a driving course. Put Pine Sol in your washer fluid. Yeah. But is that something you've shared with other drivers that, particularly when we hit the winter season?
Right. Yeah. Anything I've learned, I'm more than welcome to pass on.
Well, it's obvious you're an open book, and that's a great thing for us here at Norton Transport and for our drivers. Last thing I wanted to ask you as we wrap it up here, we talked about logs and the electronic logs, where it's going. What do you see in the future as far as, it's easy now. You were talking about it's just a push of a button. What do you see down the road for logs? Where's the next step for it?
It's kind of an open question. There's so many, I'm not super big on electronics, and I'm not super big on, I think it's cool. I think it's neat. But if you set me down in front of a pegboard with stuff to plug in, I just sit there and stare at it.
Gotcha.
Because I'm a truck driver.
Right. But compliance is key regardless of where the technology goes.
Right, yeah. And I see the FMCSA trying their best to make things a little safer each time. Believe it or not, they're actually working for us. If you look back in the 19s, the 1980s, 1990s, and if you look at the difference And we have twice as many trucks on the road, if not more. And there's not the accidents.
Mm-hmm.
There's not near, I mean, granted, you're going to have your medical events and you're going to have this, but there's not near the tired drivers making bad choices. Everything is making themselves safer, and it's letting more of us come home.
That's the key right there, coming home. You've listened to Aaron Smith here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. He is our driver development manager and shared a lot of insight to how drivers can be safer and, as he just said, can come home. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
Oh, greatly appreciate it.
All right. Have a good evening and enjoy your weekend, Aaron.
Oh, going to.
Six Figure Trucker is brought to you by Norton Transport. Norton Transport is a drive-away trucking company that customers can rely on. It offers excellent independent contract driving opportunities to professional, courteous, and qualified drivers that can provide the kind of service we deliver. If you're interested in learning more about Norton or just want to subscribe to the show, check out 6-figuretrucker.com. That's 6-figuretrucker.com.